I remember when heaven felt quiet, like every prayer I whispered just hit the ceiling and fell back into my lap. I wasn't asking for much, just peace, clarity, a sign that God still saw me. But the longer I prayed, the quieter it got. Have you ever begged for an answer and heard nothing but the sound of your own heartbeat? It's strange how silence can be so loud. I started to wonder if maybe I'd used up all of God's patience. Every verse I read felt like someone else's promise. I'd listened to sermons that once set my heart on fire, and now they just echoed in a hollow space. That's when doubt crept in like fog under a door. Slow, quiet, persistent. Maybe God had moved on to better people. Maybe I was just talking to myself. But deep down, under all that noise, there was still this tiny ember whispering, "Don't leave." So I didn't. One night, sitting on my floor with no worship music, no preacher, no plan, I said, "God, if you're not speaking, then teach me how to listen." That sentence changed everything, even before anything changed. Days turned into weeks, and the silence didn't break, but I started to. Not in a bad way, but in the kind of way a seed breaks before it grows. I realized I had been talking at God, not with Him. I wanted answers, not intimacy. But relationship requires quiet too. Think about it. If two people talk at the same time, no one hears anything. Maybe God's quiet wasn't rejection, it was invitation. And one morning, that truth hit me so clearly, I actually laughed. What if the silence wasn't God stepping away, but God sitting closer, waiting for me to stop filling the air? That single thought shifted everything. I started to wake up with a new prayer. Lord, I'll stop asking for a voice and start trusting your presence. And you know what happened? Peace came back, not in thunder, but in small, steady waves. But let me be honest, I still wrestled. I still had nights when I'd cry into my pillow and whisper, "Are you even hearing this?" And still, nothing. Yet somehow the nothing was working. I started to notice small changes. My patience stretched, my reaction softened, my appetite for control weakened. I realized silence was God's scalpel. He wasn't ignoring me. He was operating on me. He was removing my need to always know, always fix, always win. Sometimes you can't hear God's voice because He's doing heart surgery, and all you'd hear are the instruments. The problem is we confuse His stillness with His absence, but He never left. Even when I was angry, He stayed. Even when I gave Him the silent treatment, He sat through it. That's what love does. It stays. Then one day, while washing dishes of all things, I heard a sentence drop into my spirit so gently I almost missed it. You don't need me to speak louder. You just need to turn down the noise. It wasn't a shout, it was a whisper, but it felt like thunder. I looked around my kitchen, soap suds in my hands, and laughed through tears. That's how God is. He'll use the quietest moments to say the loudest truths. From then on, I began to treat silence as sacred ground, not a punishment cell. I stopped rushing my prayers and started resting in them. I learned to read Scripture not like a checklist, but like a letter. And slowly, the silence became friendship. I began to realize that the God who wasn't answering me was actually teaching me how to breathe again. And maybe that's what He's trying to show you too. If your prayers feel like echoes, maybe heaven isn't ignoring you. It's training your heart to hold still. Faith isn't built in noise. It's forged in quiet. The strength that lasts doesn't come from answered prayers. It comes from surviving the unanswered ones. The quiet seasons teach us to love God for who He is, not just what He gives. If you can worship in the dark, you'll dance in the light without pride. If you can trust through silence, you'll never panic when storms speak louder. Because the truth is, God's silence is never random. It's a pause with purpose. It's the moment before the dawn, the inhale before the answer. There came a night when I finally stopped begging for a miracle and just thanked Him for being God. I didn't get a thunderclap that night. No angels, no goosebumps. But I slept peacefully for the first time in months. The storm outside me hadn't changed, but something inside me did. My soul learned to rest, even without results. And that's the real miracle. The world tells you peace comes when problems disappear. But heaven says peace comes when your trust outweighs your fear. I started to see the silence not as a wall but a womb, something growing inside of it, unseen but alive. So, if you're still waiting, still wondering why heaven hasn't texted you back, listen to me carefully. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. God's silence is not punishment. It's preparation. He's training you to hear the melody beneath the noise. The same God who seemed quiet is still orchestrating your story. Keep praying, even when it feels mechanical. Keep showing up. Keep loving. Keep forgiving. The silence is where roots dig deep. And one day, when the answer comes, you'll realize the silence wasn't empty. It was holy. Before you go to bed tonight, put your hand over your heart and whisper this: God, even in your silence, I trust you. Say it until you believe it, because one day this quiet season will end, and you'll miss it. The simplicity, the closeness, the stillness that built your strength. You'll look back and realize His silence wasn't distance, it was depth. So don't run from the quiet. Rest in it, listen in it, grow in it. Because sooner or later, that silence will speak, and when it does, it will sound like victory.